Hello, good evening. Chris Hughes from Rebound on Upstreamedia's daily YouTube show. Today I've got Carl Wheatle here. I'm really excited to talk to him. He's just signed a new contract with his club. Welcome, Carl. Hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Me too. I've really enjoyed watching your combos with Carl, so we'll get into that as well. But I thought maybe we start with your basketball journey. Maybe for people who don't know you, sort of just as a brief intro, what got you into basketball and the clubs you played at since getting into basketball.
Okay, so I first started playing basketball. My first introduction, so my first ever kind of picking up a basketball was would be through my early years at Brixton Top Cats. So my mum would do like fitness classes in at the Brixton Rec, and I would go along and train with the Top Cats at the same time. So that was kind of my first like real introduction, but it wasn't something I really took serious at the time. It was kind of just, kind of being active out of the house on the weekends. My main sport was actually football until about 14. So that's the one I really was passionate about until then. And then around the age of 13, 14, I was playing in a tournament with my secondary school. There was a basketball tournament. They just picked a team at random, and we played in an inter-schools tournament. And from there, I got spotted by a couple of the coaches at Greenhouse Pioneers, which is where I played in the UK. And they asked me to come down and, train and, see how I like basketball. So I said, why not? I've always been, quite a sporty, individual. I've always played sports from a young age. I've enjoyed doing all different kinds of sports. So I went down and practiced a few times a week. And over time, I just enjoyed it more and more. So the following season, I then signed to play for them. So I was at Greenhouse Pioneers for a couple of years. And that was a great experience because it was obviously my first like proper introduction to basketball, and there was
Yeah.
guys there that had been playing for quite a while already, so it was good to kind of see where I was at. Um, and I was quite happy with my progress within the first year. Um, I got selected for trials with the England under 14s team, which one of the development squads they had back in the day. So I was really nervous going into that trial kind of thing because I'd never really been in, like an international kind of environment with it. Succeeded at that. Got picked for a tournament in Scotland. We did well. We won the tournament. Um, Moving on to the next year, under 15s, I was feeling, always more confident, and I felt like I was steadily improving. I got called up then for the England under 16s team a year young, and that's where things really kind of started to accelerate. Um, During that tournament in the summer with the under 16s, I was spotted by a club in Italy who then contacted my coach, and it then led to me getting an agent, and we discussed the possibility of me flying out to Italy. So after the tournament, it was about a week after I flew to Italy for a trial at this club at Angelico Biello, which is where I started my career overseas. Tried out for a week, so to kind of see the organization, meet the coaches and the players, and then a couple months later, they offered me a deal for 4 years, which I then signed and left November of 2013. So when I was 15 at the time, it was a bit crazy because it kind of was my
Sorry.
GCSE year.
Yeah.
It was in my GCSE year, so it was a bit like hectic with school and everything. But yeah, so that was my steady progression. Now I was there for 7 years before leaving last season, joining Pista, and then yeah, that's been my journey, so far.
Awesome, man. Like I say, there's a real culture sort of growing up in London. Did you feel that when you were going to Brixton Academy and London Greenhouse? Did you feel inspired by people around you growing up in London, playing basketball in London?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started playing at Brixton, obviously I was really young, so I didn't really like kind of know the older guys. But I would always see like older guys practicing in the Brixton men's team, practicing after us. So it was cool to just to see them doing that, even though I didn't really know the players at the time. And then when I kind of grew up and started playing for Pioneers, obviously I was older, so I kind of understood more. And I would see and hear stories about some of the guys who come through the Brixton Top Cats program. Obviously the obvious is like Luau Deng, who obviously was in the NBA. But then guys like Justin Robertson, Matthew Brown Amanin, Ogo, these kind of guys who, obviously are a bit older than me and have come through that pathway and to see that they've had success and kind of thing. And the more I kind of got into the basketball game in the UK and kind of got to learn more about, players who had come before me. It was really interesting to see that, these kind of players and these kind of guys, as well as so many more, like there's so many people that have been, at some point part of the Brixton Top Cats program, but just to see that, that so many people have come through, it's kind of filled me with pride really to see that, literally 10 minutes from where I used to live, like there was such a rich basketball culture and so many people kind of knew, they knew about Jimmy and knew about, what he had done there. So that was pretty cool.
And obviously, you mentioned a bit about your GB and playing abroad, which we'll get to in a bit. But for you growing up, was there anyone specific you sort of tried to base your game around, or who inspired you, or gave some really good comments? To say you obviously were exposed to that international arena quite young, sort of at the under-16s level. Was the people who you looked up to when you first went there?
I didn't really have one player in particular. My favorite player growing up was Kobe, but I didn't really try to model my game after him. I just loved, the way he played, his passion for the game, his intensity he brought like on and off the court. So he was my favorite player growing up. Like he's the one I like to watch the most. But I wouldn't say I really tried to emulate my game after anyone in particular. When I was at Ailey the first couple of years, I did draw comparisons to Kawhi Leonard, but I think that was more just because of how I was physically. I had long hair at the time. I was a pretty good defender. Well, I am a pretty good defender, so it drew those kind of comparisons. But I've never particularly said, I tried to model my game after one particular person. I just tried to, see what a team needs and try to make myself available to do that.
Of course, of course. Um, and obviously, you went to Italy. Um, what was that like? To say a lot of people would go to try and test it doing college to America, but hats off to you going to Italy. What were some of the challenges that first year of adapting to new surroundings?
Oh, it was extremely tough. Moving out to Italy. I mean, up until that point, the longest I'd ever been away from home was 2 weeks. A basketball tournament, and that's with teammates, with friends. It's a completely different environment. So moving out to Italy for the first time, it was really emotional. It was a crazy experience. I remember, leaving the airport. My family came to wave me off, and I was just like crying in the airport. The whole family was like really emotional, full of tears, and it was just. I remember sitting on a plane and flying to Italy, and I'm just thinking, wow, like I'm really leaving, to try and make it. And the first few months were pretty rough. Obviously, I didn't speak any Italian at the time, or I didn't really know anyone. Obviously, because I left when I was quite young, my teammates didn't really speak a great amount of English, so it did make the social aspect more than anything really, really awkward at the start. I would always feel like I was kind of the odd one out because I couldn't really conversate with people, and I was kind of just in the corner, maybe on my phone or playing games. So the first few months definitely were tough. Um, but I feel like the more comfortable I got on the court, it kind of helped off the court as well. Um, when we were playing basketball, I didn't really feel that different because once you start playing, it's kind of easy to understand guys and the the things that the coaches were saying. The coaches would coach in English to help me out, and then it would help my teammates with learning stuff in English, and then the little things they would say in Italian I kind of picked up. So on the court it wasn't too bad, but off the court that's where the kind of the biggest struggle. Obviously because I left all my friends and family behind, so going home wasn't the same as how it was before. I wasn't hanging out with friends after school kind of thing. It was kind of practice, come home, and then I'm just like in my room, kind of just sleeping or playing video games. But it was a bit of a lonely experience at first, but over time it did get better.
Of course, I can imagine a big change, sort of having to adapt. But I imagine that first season, maybe the second season, there were some highlights too. What were some of the highlights for you from those first years abroad in Italy?
Some of the highlights was just, embracing a new culture really. Obviously improving as a player was the main thing because obviously that was the main reason why I chose to leave. But also just, embracing a new culture, meeting new people. Obviously I learned a new language which I never kind of have expected to do. So that was really cool. Like to say to people, I speak fluent Italian, it's like, okay, yeah, like I would never, expected that kind of thing to happen. And also the team we was always doing pretty well. In my second year, we actually made the national finals, and we came third in the country at under 19s. So to have that kind of achievements in my second year was like wow, it was really, it really meant a lot, and it was a big thing for me because it kind of showed that I was on the right path and I had made the right decision.
For sure. And I imagine it's obviously been there for quite a while now. You're obviously really enjoying it. What are the things that really make you feel comfortable being in Italy? in terms of like, on the court, but also off the court as well?
I'm on the court. I've just, I've grown up playing this game now. So, I'm used to the Italian style of play, the way kind of coaches and players go about, the game on a day-to-day basis. I've played in Italy longer than I've played in the UK, much longer than I've played in the UK. So I've got used to, their style of playing, the way they do things. And then off the court, I've been really blessed, the places I've been, my previous club, and then this year, it's been a great city with really welcoming people. So I felt like I was at home straight away. I was always comfortable with my situation. I feel like it is difficult for people sometimes when you go overseas or go to the States because the kind of the social life and the kind of other aspects are a bit difficult. But I'm quite a laid back person in general. So for me, the places I were, they were quite small cities, so it did help me focus a lot on basketball. And at the same time, it was kind of a family feel because you kind of knew that most people knew everyone. So it kind of, you could go out and your teammates would know you straight away, and your teammates' families. You got to know people on a deeper level. So like I've got a great relationship now with, old teammates' families who I played with, and that's kind of great to have and something I didn't expect to have, but I know something that will carry on for years to come after, I finish playing basketball or whatever happens in the future.
Definitely. I think basketball's that way of uniting people. You mentioned Sam, how you build those relationships with people. You said how the playing style is different. Italy. How would you sort of describe the Italian playing style compared to, say, the English playing style? What are the main differences you notice?
Well, it's a bit difficult for me because I only played in England up until, under 16, under 18 level. So I can only compare it to a junior kind of standpoint. And with the juniors, it is quite similar because at the end of the day, the junior level, it doesn't differ too much. I think maybe just the understanding of the game and, just having kind of the basic fundamental training is maybe one of the biggest differences between Italy and the UK. I think in the UK, for more than reasons just of coaching, but also, the time and the access that they have. Obviously, in the UK, for example, if you can only train 2, 3 times a week, in Italy, I was training twice a day most days, you know, but once a day at least with my team. So, it's just more time. If you can put more time in, then it can just automatically allow you to do more and, improve more and, just learn more skills. So I feel like the fundamental side of the game is definitely more advanced from a younger age, and it's something they drill into their players from an early age. So, in Italy, you'll see it a lot, not just in Italy, but in Europe in general. Usually the big guys, can shoot. They can handle the ball. They've got godlike abilities. Even though if they end up growing to 6'10", 7 foot, they're not going to be guards on the perimeter. But at the same time, they've got the fundamental basics that get taught and embedded from an early age, and you can kind of see it as they grow. They don't lose those kind of things. I feel like sometimes, I feel like the UK is more similar to the States because it's like you can focus really quickly on one kind of thing. So, a lot of the time you'll see like really athletic players who do well, but maybe don't do as well as they could because, the fundamentals weren't really installed and they're great athletes and great players, doing what they do, but they could be a lot more if they kind of had the fundamentals embedded from an early age. So that's probably the biggest difference, especially at youth level, because, once you get older and get to the pros, everyone's kind of working the same, not working the same, but, we're at a level where you make improvements, but there are some things that you don't really change. So it's rare that you have guys, changing their shooting form when they're 25, 26 kind of thing. So I feel like definitely at the early age is when, the biggest kind of separation is there.
Definitely, I say you're still quite young yourself. You say, but you're quite a defensive player. What would you like to add to your game for next season? What would you like to work on, maybe to improve slightly? If there's something you want to focus on, what would it be?
Yeah, just being more assertive offensively. Just, being more confident in my shot and taking, you know, not I won't say better shots, but being just more open to taking the shots when they're there, kind of thing. I already know what I can do on the defensive end, and the other little things on the court. But yeah, just being more assertive offensively. Knowing that I can do things that I don't always do, and yeah, just more confidence in myself on that side of the floor.
Sounds good. I say, obviously, congrats. Obviously, today it was released that you signed a new deal with the club. Um, Obviously, COVID's made the season end, but what were some of the highlights from this season? What were some of the decision factors in terms of making that decision to stay on?
Yeah, so it was a tough season for us. We were quite near the bottom of the table, and we did have a bit of a struggling start. But I feel like over the season, as the season progressed, we definitely picked up, and it's kind of bittersweet because literally I felt like we were playing our best basketball right when we went into lockdown, and the whole COVID situation kind of took over. So it was a bit annoying because we felt like as a team we were finally hitting our groove, and we felt good about the remaining games of the season. We felt confident in the games we had left. So it was quite annoying that that happened, but obviously it was things out of our control. Some of the motivations that led me to resigning just obviously with the whole COVID situation, kind of the uncertainties around sport, especially, and just in general, I wanted stability of knowing the situation I'm going to be going back to, and knowing that it's going to be somewhere I can succeed and excel because I've got a good relationship with the coaches and the staff there and the organization, and just it was kind of unfinished business because I felt like this season we kind of left it unfinished. We were hitting our stride and we kind of got stopped at the worst possible moment for us. So I feel like I owe it to the fans and the club to come back and try to have a successful season following on from the situation that's occurred with obviously the whole coronavirus and everything there.
And of course, what would unfinished business look for you to say you were? Yes, you were near the bottom, but I was looking. It was like only a handful of wins, or maybe a little bit higher. How high do you think, and how far do you think your team could go up the table, given a whole season with that momentum and chemistry you built from this season? Sorry.
Yeah, so because of the whole coronavirus, my team actually had to ask to reposition themselves in the second league. So in the second league, I feel like we've got a great chance to try and win. I feel like that should be our goal from the start. Really, I feel like the team that the club is assembling right now is one that needs to compete and needs to compete for championships because ultimately, if coronavirus didn't happen, we're still in the top league kind of thing. So we know that we deserve to be there, and that's our goal going into next season to try and win as many games as possible and be there in June time fighting for the championship.
And we were sort of talking off air, but with going down that division, it changed a few things. Obviously, I want you say secrets. What do you know in terms of the rebuild? Because obviously you were saying that with going down, say with any divisions, less import players allowed. What are some of the restrictions or maybe things that you'll know that are going to be having for next season?
Well, that's the biggest one really. The imports, the changes from five in the top league to two in the second. But apart from that, this is pretty standard stuff. I mean, there are, some clauses, in contracts nowadays because of the whole coronavirus that change things up a bit, but it's pretty standard stuff. We know what we kind of need to do and how we're looking to go into the season. So yeah, just looking forward to it really and hoping that, we're allowed to play without any kind of restrictions and then eventually have our fans back as well, supporting us.
Of course, that's the main thing. Obviously, I wish you good luck for that. And also, I'd like to cover your GB. So obviously, you mentioned that you were involved quite early on, but obviously you made seniors the last few seasons. What's that experience been like? What been some of the highlights along your way going up from the NC60s up to seniors? What some of the key memories you have looking back on those experiences?
Well, I've really enjoyed my time playing for England, like starting in the GB teams more recently. It's always been, a great experience, not just because of the on-court stuff and the successes that we've had, but also, just the kind of brotherhood you form with these guys over the summer. I mean, a lot of the time it's a lot of camps, a lot of training sessions together, and you do form bonds a lot with the players because you eat together, you're staying in the hotel, so your downtime you spend chilling together or playing video games, you're practicing together. So it's really you're seeing these guys a lot. So over the course of the summers, you do form relationships and bonds with guys, and it's good to see guys then going on to do good things. Some of my highlights from my junior career, especially, were gaining promotion at under 16s to Division A, 2014, with the under 16s, led by Coach Alan Keane. That was probably one of my greatest achievements, mainly because we were so young and kind of I feel like the team we had, was a really well put together team, and we all we all really enjoyed that summer. It was a great summer. Also because with the 16s, it's usually the European Championships at the end of the summer. So it was a really long summer together, working hard. And I feel like it all came together kind of at the right time, and we came out of that with a bronze medal. So that was a great achievement for us at a younger age. And then also more recently with the under 20s promotion again in 2017. Again, that team, similar kind of thing. We really had a strong unit from the start of camp, really, and it was installed to us by coach Andreas Kapoulas, who said to us, literally from the start of camp, from day one, he said, we're here to try and win a medal. We're here to try and get GB back to Division A. So for us, coming with that mindset and all the guys bought into that, and then for us to be able to achieve and win a bronze medal at the tournament was a big thing. And that's my guy. Those are my guys. I love to see all those guys in that team doing well, and it's great to see the progressions that we've kind of made as a country. And then moving on to more recently with the GB men's, it's been a surreal experience because for me personally, obviously, I grew up playing football, so I had never, expected to be not only in the national team but also for the national team for basketball. Is kind of, a completely different kind of pathway that I thought or that I saw myself going on when I was younger. So to get my first call up at 19, it was a great experience. It was a tremendous kind of honor to be recognized and to be called up for the senior men's team. And over the past few years, I've taken tremendous pride in representing and trying to learn from some of the vets that are on the team because they've always tried to help me and tried to guide me and tried to give me, tips and gems of knowledge that they've got. And because obviously those guys are a lot more experienced in their careers and have seen so much. So it's great to play with those guys and to compete with them because again, over time you form bonds and brotherhoods with these guys. And even though they're older, it's like I'm the little brother kind of thing. So it's cool to see those guys, check up on me and give me advice. And it's hopefully something I can do, in the future to the younger generations.
For real. What was that being called up at 19 like? What happened? Do you remember what you were doing on that day when you were called up? What were some of the emotions you were feeling that day? Just imagine it was quite a memorable moment getting that call saying you'll make the seniors.
Yeah, so when I got called up, I was actually under 20s camp. It was the summer of 2017. So it was the year I was with the 20s. My first year, I was a year young at the time. When I got called up, I got the email and the info during camp, and then it kind of got released while I was at camp. So it was kind of a crazy experience because I didn't expect it all. It was a bit out of the blue, and so that summer was a bit hectic for me because I literally went from finishing under 20s Euros. About a week later, I went into senior men's camp. So just trying to stay level headed with it. Obviously, it came during our preparation for the Europeans of the 20s, so I tried to kind of push it to the side for a second and try to focus as much as possible on the 20s. But my teammates with the 20s were really happy for me. It really meant a lot that the work that I put in and was being recognized, and I got the call up. So yeah, that was definitely a very fun summer for me.
And obviously, through that whole process, you've been under many different coaches. What are some of the best bits of advice you've received from them in terms of your own personal growth and some of the sort of the messages you take on further on in your career?
Just to be myself and always take pride in what you do. I remember Joe Prunty, who was my first coach with the men's in that summer. He instilled a lot of confidence in me from an early age. He gave me playing time and time to work out my mistakes and kind of play through my errors. And it really helped with my confidence going into the season because he's a really experienced coach. Obviously coached in the NBA for a number of years and has coached at a high level. So for him to instill that confidence in me and give me the confidence to play my game and put me in situations to where I can help the team, it was really big for me, especially at a young age and it being my first time. And then all the coaches really, they've always been really supportive of me as a player. Obviously I understand sometimes not playing as much or sometimes maybe not getting minutes, but for me personally, with the GB men's is bigger than me, myself. It's always been about how the team performs and the betterment of the team and just being able to do what I can do to help the team. So I've always had a good relationship with the coaches I've had. And more recently, in Newcastle with Mark Stutel, who was my coach under 20s as well for my second year. It's good to kind of reconnect with him, and I enjoyed being coached by him the first time under 20. So it was kind of good to kind of see it come full circle and him to coach me again at GB. That was a cool experience.
Cool. And what were some of those training camps like? I imagine, quite elite scrimmages. I imagine there's quite a lot of tough matchups. Who are the guys who really you found it hard matching up with, or enjoyed matching up in terms of those scrimmages and training camps?
Yeah, so the first camp I was ever at, when I was 19, that was, it was great just to be in that environment and to see these guys going at it. I enjoyed matching up with a lot of guys really, and I was asked to guard, multiple positions. So at the time, Gareth Murray was the main guy in my position that I would go up against in training. But then I would have turns guarding Luke Nelson, Andrew Lawrence, and guys like this who all, they all play different kind of games. So it's fun to kind of challenge myself with those kind of matchups. Most recently, Miles Hessen is the one I'd be going at most in practice, and it's great to go out against Miles because Miles obviously experienced player. Has played at a high level for a number of years, so it's good to kind of to compete against him, and we go at it all the time in practice. So it's kind of good because he gives me a lot of tips and a lot of gems, and obviously being a captain is someone that you look up to within the GB ranks. So to go against yeah, guys like him, guys like Ovi, Ashley, Luke, Josh Steele, all these kind of guys who I kind of mix in my positions and who I guard throughout the practices is definitely a challenge, but it's one I relish because definitely in the scrimmages we all get at it, and it's high level scrimmages because it's guys at the highest level, all wanting to compete. So it's definitely fun to do that, and definitely enjoyable to be able to go at those guys.
Awesome, man. It sounds a really good experience, and I can definitely see how that benefits your game. Matching all these different guys who have different games. I wonder if we'd break into sort of the most recent two games where GB had those amazing performances at home. What was that like playing at home in front of the British fans? What are some of the on-court highlights and maybe some of the off-court highlights between the guys that you look back on from that last tour with them?
Yeah, no, it was great to be a part of that, to be able to play at home in front of a packed out and sold out arena and get the win as well against one of the top teams. I feel like that's kind of just the icing on the cake because I feel like us as a team, we're really building that bond and finding our rhythm really as a team. So to be able to win against a team like Germany, or obviously a really well respected European powerhouse in basketball, and to beat them on our home floor, it just shows that we have the ability and we have the drive and the capabilities to compete with the best teams. So just to be a part of that was a great experience. Getting good minutes and feeling like I contributed well to that game and to that win was big as well. And just seeing the team come together at the right. Obviously in that game, Luke had a crazy game, so for him to kind of to show out, Ovi had a great game as well, and just to be part of the team where we really felt like it came together at the right moment, and we had a great performance as a team. It was really fun to be a part of that, and it was great to do it on our home floor as well against such a good team.
For real. What was some of the off-court highlights? Maybe something behind the scenes, maybe things that fans didn't get to see, but maybe in a year or so time you look back, oh, that was an amazing time. It was really fun. Maybe some of those sort of insights that maybe the fans wouldn't get from watching the game. What are some of the things that you take away from that time?
Yeah, just the camaraderie of the team, just being together, enjoying our downtime together, playing video games, chatting, just catching up because also, during the season, obviously everyone's playing in different places. So I'm in Italy, guys are in Spain, France, wherever. So it's just good to be able to come back, come into an environment where you can catch up with guys you may have played with when you was younger. For me, it's a bit different because most of the guys are older than me, so I never really played against them when I was younger. But it's just cool to see how how everyone's doing and catch up and again form that kind of brotherhood. And it's so much more than just what we do on the court as well. We become family kind of off the court, so it's fun to be a part of that. You have jokes and you play around and video games and card games and just the kind of fun stuff we do as a team in the hotel or wherever. It's cool to be a part of that, but then know that when it's time to get on the court and handle business, that we're able to do that as well.
Of course, and you obviously you're a bit of a younger member compared to maybe the others, and hats off to you. I really like what you do with combos with Carl, and a lot of it is about the younger generation, sort of promoting them, and I think it's really working with Delta in a second. But I was wondering, some players maybe you play for the under 20s or under 18s, maybe a few of them, obviously it's very hard to pick a few, but a few who you think have got really good potential or good work of it. Who are those group that you played with at the junior, England and GB level that's really impressed you?
Well, Kareem Queeley is one who who's done really well for himself. At the early stages of his career, he's got a lot of potential and someone who could definitely go into to good things. Um, Nelson Bocci Adom, who's been someone who has always worked really hard, and who's now at Davidson, if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure if he's still there, but um, he's always been someone who's put in a lot of work, and the improvements have kind of you can see it. You can see how he's worked, and how the improvements have got him to where he is right now. Kane Henry's another one, a younger guy coming through, who's made a name for himself more recently with GB and also over in the States. So, he's another one who's got all the tools to be successful, to have, a very good career moving on. And also Cameron Hildreth as well, who's younger. So who I haven't played with personally, but I've kind of seen what he's been doing in these last couple of years, and it's really impressive to see. He's got a really mature game for his age. So yeah, he's definitely an interesting player to watch, and hopefully he goes on to do big things and good things in the future.
Definitely, the future definitely seems quite bright. Quite a lot of prospects to watch out for, including yourself. I've really enjoyed watching your combos with Carl, but I'd love to know what inspired you to start doing it. What sort of drove you to sort of doing these combos with Carl?
So for me, I had done an Instagram takeover with the Basketball England page, and on that takeover, I kind of did a live, just talking to some of my ex teammates and just kind of people I knew, and just letting them tell their story a bit, to hopefully inspire like the next generation. And then I did a couple more over on the 506 Elite page, which was a camp held by Pete Simmons last summer, for guys to come and train and work together. And doing those lives, I really felt like it was good to kind of hear just about people's different experiences, and some of the challenges or adversity they may have faced in their career so far. So it kind of led me to think, I could do the same kind of thing using my platform and allowing, British players to kind of get off their chest some of the challenges they may have been through, because it's great to see that everyone's got, a different kind of story. And some players I've spoken to have been in Europe and really enjoyed it and gone on to play pros, and others have gone through the American system and then gone on to the pros. Others maybe have been in college, haven't enjoyed it as much, and come back. And so it's just great to kind of give guys the opportunity to kind of talk more about their experiences, and also help others, because a lot of the time I'll get people asking me, what's the best move? I've got colleges looking at me, what do I do? Or asking me about teams in Europe. So it's just good to kind of hear from different players as well. A lot of people I've played with, and also people I've seen play, to kind of hear about their overall experiences, and hopefully pass on knowledge and kind of give tips as well throughout that to kind of younger people watching, and just people trying to learn more about, maybe going to the States or going overseas. So yeah, that's the main reason behind the talk show.
Definitely, it sounds really good idea. Helping the next generation find their feet, and also giving them that confidence to and use your platform to help boost their profile. Obviously, you've done, I think it's 7 episodes. Talk us through
Yeah.
it and talk about some of the guests you've had on.
Yeah, so obviously with the show, I didn't really have like a set amount of episodes I wanted to do. I kind of just wanted to start and see how it's gone, and I've been really happy, of how it's gone. I feel like I've had really interesting guests. Most recently, on my last episode, I had Paige Robinson, who it was really interesting to hear her story, because she had gone from Spain at a young age, so she kind of did a similar thing to I did. I went out to Spain early on. She was there. She left when she was 13, came back to the UK, played for a couple of years in the UK, and then went on to the States. So it was really interesting to hear about her transition, from a young age, and playing at three completely different levels and in three different countries, and how she sort of found not just the on-court stuff, but also how to kind of deal with life off-court, because a lot of people don't really take into consideration, obviously we see, it's easy to see the success of people on the court, and you see highlights and you see stats and stuff of how people are doing in games, but there's also a lot more behind it, with the mental aspect of, especially for people in college in the States, the student athlete lifestyle, trying to balance that kind of schedule and lifestyle. And so she's one that I really enjoy talking to. Also, just seeing some of the guys I played with as well, guys like RJ Rock, Josh Steele, Danny Evans, Andre Arisol. There's so many I could name that I've done in the show. Those guys all were part of that GB under 20s team, actually, who I've been a part with. Amin, Adamu, Jabril Bello, who I had on on yesterday's episode. It's just great to see those guys who I've played with in the past and to see them now. Some of those guys are pros now. Josh has been a pro for a few years. Andre and Danny are kind of going into their first seasons as pros. Amin, Jabril, RJ, those kind of guys have been really successful at college and trying to build off that. So it's really cool to see just, guys I've played with them, guys I've known, coming up in as players to kind of see how they're doing and see them doing well as well. And then more guys like Jules, who Jules actually was at Pioneers before me. I went over to Europe like 2 years before me, so he kind of was the pathway I kind of followed. So it was really cool to hear, his journey, and it was similar to mine. Obviously, moving to a country in Europe and not knowing the language, so it was cool to kind of see, the people doing similar things to you, and there's also people that are taking different paths, and it's just really cool to hear about some of the challenges and also some of the successes that these guys have had. So yeah, I've really enjoyed the episode so far.
I can imagine you seem very outgoing personality. I've got TikTok, but I see you share your TikTok stories, and they'd be really funny. Talk us through those because some of them really good. I'm not sure if everyone sees them. I'm not sure if everyone's on Instagram, but give us a little lowdown on some of your top TikTok videos.
Yeah, so the TikTok kind of thing for me really started when I was in Italy, because I was in Italy on their lockdown for about 2 weeks before I flew home back to the UK. And so the Italian lockdown was quite a bit stricter than the UK. We weren't really allowed out apart from to go to the supermarket to buy food. And for me, where my apartment was, the supermarket was literally next to my house. So I literally didn't leave my apartment for like 2 weeks. And so obviously there's only so much you can do kind of at home. Obviously I tried to work out, but it's difficult without much equipment and stuff. And, I didn't want to spend all day on my PlayStation kind of thing. So, I saw TikToks and, just saw it was kind of a thing. So I just thought, why not make some and kind of see how they go. And so the first ones were kind of shorter, kind of simpler ones. Um, but yeah, just different things. So dance trends or just videos. And then I kind of tried to get a little creative with it. So the first one that kind of really made people laugh was my Power Rangers video,
Yeah,
which is where I was lucky. I had four different color tracksuits, so it kind of worked perfectly as being a Power Ranger, and I put flour on my face to kind of beat a monster. So it was really cool just to kind of mess around in my apartment and kind of come up with those videos. And then when I came to the UK, another one was the Quarantine Olympics
yeah. As I
um,
mentioned, that was one.
video.
So,
Yeah, that was probably the people's favorite, the Quarantine Olympics video where like I played myself at ping pong and I pretended to be a sprinter in my garden. So yeah, it was just cool to
yeah.
kind of get creative with things, and it was also a great way to pass time because though making those TikToks, it takes quite a while actually. I didn't realize how long it took, but having to do retakes and edit things and trying to think of the ideas in the first place. So it was really cool. And then yeah, some of them are just literally just me kind of just messing around, dancing around, and just you know being happy, I guess. So yeah, that was the main reason behind the whole TikTok thing. It's kind of tailed off a bit recently, but yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to keep that momentum going, especially if it's something like you say, it takes a lot of time editing, reshooting. But I think it's a really good way of keeping positive, doing something busy. Like for me, I definitely found out doing this show. If anyone's new to the show, guys from Upstreamedia do a great job during the regular season. They streamed Thames Valley Cavaliers home NBL D1 games, and during this off-season, they've been the opportunity to have this day show, which I really enjoy. And I can see, Carl, you really enjoy doing your show. What do you think is next for your show?
So with my show, I'm probably gonna do another 3 episodes on Instagram to take me to 10 episodes, and then that was kind of like in the back of my head, kind of like my set goal. I thought about making it into a podcast as well, which is something I could kind of carry on into the season because obviously now I've got a lot of spare time, so it's kind of easy for me to dedicate an hour or however long it is a week to kind of doing it. But obviously during the season, I know people are a lot more busy, so maybe doing a podcast I could put out on, during the week, which is kind of a bit more easy access and not having to rely on because obviously right now I'm doing live streams on a Wednesday, so it's harder to maintain viewers because obviously people are busy. But if it's something accessible like a podcast, then it definitely makes sense. And yeah, that's probably the next step for me, trying to turn into a podcast and then take it from there. Really, maybe mix up the guests and um, yeah, really. So just keep talking to some of the best UK young ballers, and then maybe extend it out, do a few coaches, and do a few my GB senior men's, kind of give a different perspectives as well to kind of not just show what guys are going through now, but also I don't say the finished products, but guys who are more experienced to have played at a high level for a amount of years. That also gives another kind of ex, another perspective and kind of show people what can be achieved and how to sort of get there.
Definitely, I say as you said, your shows on Instagram, is sort of the live aspect. But is there a way that you put on the platform after you've done it, or was it lost after you've done that episode?
Oh no, so I post all my episodes are on my page on Instagram. I make sure I post it to my page just to give people the opportunity to rewatch, because I know it's a lot for people to tune in to a live every week and watch an hour of me doing the interviews, but it's there afterwards so they can watch one interview a day, and that's about 20 minutes for each person. So it's kind of it's a bit more accessible. So yeah, it always goes to my page after the live's finished. So yeah, all the episodes are there. If people want to check them out and see kind of how the show's been going, kind of thing.
Definitely, I've really enjoyed watching them. And you mentioned yourself, they're busy. I'm not sure if you realise there's quite a lot of people doing similar things at the moment. There's a lot of
Mm.
different shows. And you talked a bit about you want some other guests. Are there some names in your head that you're like, I really want to get this guy on or that person on? Who's sort of people you want to ask but you haven't had on yet?
There's a few. Um, I've got a few people kind of in mind, but it's just seeing obviously if they're available and stuff. I want to do before like in these extra episodes, I want to do a GB senior special. So I'll just have three guys from the GB senior men's or just a GB senior special. So I'll probably ask one of the women to do it as well, just to kind of give kind of like I said, not the finished product kind of perspective, also the kind of veteran, someone who's been a professional for a number of years and kind of for them to tell their journey. But I don't know how I'm going to work that because I kind of want them to talk for longer. But obviously with Instagram, you only get an hour on the live, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. But I think I'll work out some way. So yeah, I've got a few people in mind, but I kind of want to see how it goes first.
Definitely. And at the end of the show, we'll share your platform so people can go there and have a look at it going on. Obviously, you just mentioned about the GB's ladies. It's obviously been a really good time in both, I think, for GB, with men's, juniors, ladies. What things have you noticed in terms of GB that really impressed you so far?
Yeah, so no, GB as a country, as a basketball, nation, we've definitely been doing much better in recent years. Just to speak on the ladies first of all, what they've done at Eurobasket last year and coming, literally inches away from qualifying for the Olympics. It just shows it's a testament to the work they've put in, and to shout out to all of them, to the coaching staff, down to all the players that have been involved. Just that the female game is growing and it's right there with the men. So it's definitely one that needs to be appreciated more in the country. I feel like the women don't get as much credit as they deserve for the performances that they've been putting on for us. I feel like it's deserved a lot more coverage than it got just from the national media kind of thing, because we're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about the Olympics. We're talking about the British women's basketball team, which you don't necessarily associate straight. You don't think of straight away, and they were literally inches away from qualifying for the Olympics, which is the highest possible stage you can perform as an athlete. So I definitely feel like they deserve more credit for what they've done, because they are showing that they can compete with the best teams in the world. Just showing they finished fourth at Eurobasket last year. They're showing that they're right up there with the best teams in Europe, and I feel like we deserve, as a nation, but them especially as well, they deserve so much more recognition and funding to help their kind of project go on even further from this, so that next time the Olympics come around, they can make that next step and get there. And then just with the junior teams as well, seeing the progressions of so many players in the last few years, seeing guys come up through the youth teams and kind of making a name for themselves, having guys like Kareem Queeley, Jacob Brown, getting their foot in the door with the men's team as well, and just seeing so many guys come through and have successful college careers and going to do big things in the UK and abroad as well. Just it's great to see that we are producing players, and our junior teams are doing better in recent years as well. We've got under 20s and under 18s both in Division A for the men's. So it's great to see that we are showing our progression and we're showing the ability to be able to hang and be able to play with some of these best nations. And then obviously with the men's, for us right now, even though obviously COVID has kind of, messed up the qualification kind of period and stuff. But our goal is to qualify for Eurobasket, whenever that tournament will take place, and obviously represent to the best of our ability. So yeah, I definitely feel like GB Basket was on the rise, and it deserves recognition for that.
Definitely. I remember when the girls were just that game away, and I think I got blocked by a few BBC Sport reporters like, come on guys, do more coverage. I think they got me fed up for me asking them to do it, because I was like, there's no other sport around, and they just weren't doing anything. But I appreciate you got to build from the ground up. You can't literally just tell them to put a camera on. It takes a lot to do that. And I know a lot of your experience has been from Italy, but obviously you've been around with players, you probably have your opinions. And obviously I don't want to be too critical, because I think people involved are trying to do the right thing, but theoretically, if you could change like one or maybe a few things in British basketball, what would you change but you'd think would make the most impact in terms of the British basketball product?
That's a difficult one because there are a lot of kind of underlying issues that it's hard to address or hard to fix straight away. Um, Obviously, funding is always talked about, the needing for funding and needing to put money behind the sport. But also with that, you kind of need the right people in the positions to know what to do with it and to kind of the best ways to implement this. Because a lot of the times you see with our game, hiring people who, no disrespect to them, but, are great with their sports. But when it comes to basketball, they've never seen a game, picked up a basketball, know much about the sport. And it's hard to kind of rely on that process when you kind of don't know who's in charge. You don't know that they know the best needs for the game, kind of thing. There's been a lot of talk recently about the new chair. And I don't want to get into that too much, but at the same time, it's like he wasn't a basketball player. He doesn't really know much about the sport, and as well as he can mean to do, he's never really experienced it coming. He hasn't played, he hasn't grown up around the sport. It's hard to come into a sport which is struggling like basketball has in the UK and kind of just try to renovate it immediately. It's obviously easier, if someone became the new football chair, it's a much different kind of thing because obviously football's so established already in the country that it doesn't need the same care and attention and knowing the sport. But with something like basketball, where we feel like we deserve so much more than what we get, and that we've shown that we can, compete with the best teams, and we're still not being like the funding is not there, or the leadership or the people behind, behind the scenes are not, haven't got the best interests at heart. It's hard to kind of believe in the process when people behind it aren't even basketball players or have no kind of connections to basketball. And I understand, obviously, there is so much more that goes into it. You need, people that are good with finance, and by having like not many basketball people on board, it kind of, it irritates me because it's like there's so many people you could ask, kind of thing, that have basketball backgrounds and that would be willing to help. That's like, are you even considering them, or are you just kind of thinking, oh yeah, he's done this with another sport, we can just bring him into basketball, kind of thing. So obviously, for me, ideally, I'd have, you know, gyms that are just for basketball. So there's always kind of the talk that, basketball courts get hired out by badminton and things like that. And, hiring a court for basketball for half an hour is like double the price of badminton for an hour, kind of thing. So just these kind of little things, because, just the accessibility to the sport, if you can say, this gym is just for basketball, you're going to have players in it. You're going to have people wanting to learn, allowing teams to, because I can guarantee if most teams in the country went from three trainings a week to five trainings a week, obviously then you need the right coaching, but I can guarantee the level of the leagues is going to improve because just got allowing guys more time to progress, more time to get better, to work at their craft. So obviously then, yeah, you do need the right coaches behind it and people, teaching the game the right way. But it's basic math. If you double the amount of training time you can give someone, the opportunity for them to become better and to make the game better in the country is there. It's so much more accessible for the people. So I feel like the biggest thing is the access, and then obviously, having the funding and the right people behind it to kind of, make the right moves and help push the game in the right direction.
I hear what you're saying in terms of the new chair. Obviously, quite most people aware they recruited a new chair. I think it hockey or netball. It was involved in another sport, and essentially, and like yourself, I never want to be too critical. Just to say you don't know how they came across the interview process, but I definitely hear your frustration. It definitely does seem from the outside in, but there's a lack of people with basketball experience, and it's hard in this current time to question why that is, or what are the decisions behind not having someone with basketball. So I think you made a really important point. It's like when you look at something that's a well done product like football, and one decision's not going to make a massive difference because it's quite a steady ship. I really like that analogy. Whereas in basketball, we all appreciate it's quite a rocky ship. So if you put one person that's a bit to rock it the wrong way, but then the same if you got someone with basketball to rock it the wrong way. I'm not really sure how the politics go on in there or how it goes on, but I would like to see more basketball players be used in terms of offering their knowledge. I like what you're doing in your show. I think current and former basketball players, their feet are on the ground. They've lived through that process. They obviously got some valuable information and knowledge to tap into. So I'm hoping we'll see some change. I like what you say about access, and I totally agree. But if they have more access to courts, they'll be obviously they'll get better because they're training more. And I'd love to get your opinion on. Obviously, you commented it recently about London Lions playing in the Basketball Champions League. What do you think that's going to do for British basketball? That's a really big thing to have a team competing in Europe, and obviously they've got new funding as well. So, what do you think that could bring to the league?
I feel that's a really, big step for the league. Also, a shout out to Leicester Riders who did a similar thing a couple of years ago, who kind of set the trend, for teams for teams in the UK to try and push to play in Europe. I feel like it's a really big step because, when you look at all the top countries in Europe and all the leagues around Europe, they've got teams playing in these European competitions. It's like in football. It's easy to make the comparison. The top four teams playing the Champions League. The next few playing the Europa League. It's the same thing in Italy with basketball. You've got the top teams playing the Euro League. You've got teams in the Euro Cup, the Champions League. So you want your best teams also being able to compete abroad and really try and push the boundaries and do more. So again, Leicester Riders, who did it a couple of years ago, and London Lions this year, who have got the chance to play in the Basketball Champions League, I think it's really big for the sport because if we want to show that as a nation, not just with the national teams, but also with our club competition and with the BBL as a league, if we want to push on and really show that it's a serious league, it needs to have teams competing and trying to do their best they can in Europe. So, yeah, it's definitely big for the London Lions, and it's an important step for them, and also just for basketball in the UK in general, just to see, that thing is a possibility. And I hope that, obviously with COVID, it kind of implements a lot of financial kind of struggles for teams, but hopefully in the next few years, teams can kind of, try to emulate what the Lions have done and what the Riders did before, and try to get themselves into Europe because, there's only one way you can really show what you're about, and that is playing against the best teams and trying to compete with them. So yeah, it's definitely a big thing for the sport, and I'm glad to see it happening.
Definitely in the same in the qualifiers. I think it's 2 games away from the main competition. And then obviously there's 28 teams and there's 3 teams from the league you're playing in. I'd be really interested to get your lowdown on those 3 teams from Italy, but in their next season. Maybe some of their strengths, something to watch out for if London Lions are paired with them later on in the draw, if they get that far, of course.
You're gonna have to remind me of the teams because I'm not even sure which, because there's so many competitions. I'm not even sure
Yeah,
which teams are.
1 second. While I'm looking, I thought maybe we'll move on to the next one. I think it's Bologna, one of the Bologna teams. I'll have a look.
Hmm.
But while we're talking sort of BBL, what are your thoughts in terms of the BBL and the NBL? What thing? Obviously, you mentioned Cameron Hill, just something you really like. Are there other players that you've seen in both leagues that really interest you?
So with the BBR, I do follow a bit. I know quite a lot of I know some of the players. Either playing against them in scrimmages during the summers or guys I've played with in the past. So it is really interesting to see kind of the growth of BBL in the last few years, and also to see kind of the homegrown players who are kind of more guys who are coming home to play. Obviously Justin Robertson, who's been now the back-to-back MVP. He's had success overseas and been overseas. Bringing that experience to the BBL, that's a big thing as well. Um, the Royals, that even though they didn't, they're no longer about, but just what they were able to do in that first season, guys like Ashley Hamilton, who I look up to. He's given me a lot of advice over the years as well with the GB men's. Having him back and playing in the country. Andrew Lawrence as well, who I actually played against in Italy a few years back. We matched up in a couple games. Matthew Bryan, Amaning, these kind of guys. Jules Dengakodo, who's been a great part of the England and GB youth teams, who's now playing back at home, and just so many more guys as well within the BBO that are kind of coming back home to play and helping grow the British game, which I think is really important. You've also had guys like Ryan Richards, who's been Surrey and places like Plymouth, and obviously, his talent kind of speaks for itself. Just to have those kind of guys around, and then when the NBL, I don't follow the NBL a crazy amount, but I do kind of see the occasional highlights and stuff. So I feel like the league is growing as well, and having young guys like Cameron Hildreth and having younger teams. I know Barking Abbey play Division
Yeah,
One, I'm pretty
Adidas
sure,
finished.
and
Yeah,
yeah, and it's just good to have those guys in those kind of tournaments because I think it's fundamental at a young age. If you can have the youngsters playing against men, it's kind of an invaluable experience. Going on. So it's great that teams like Barking and I'm sure other academies and places are doing it as well, giving their youngsters the chance to play D1, D2, whichever league. It's added experience that's invaluable for them. Obviously moving on to whatever they choose to do after they leave. But it's great to see those kind of things happening. And yeah, like you said, Barking in the ANGT, the mini EuroLeague tournament, to see them being able to
yeah,
compete
man.
and get wins there. That's great to see because again, it's trying to build and further the UK game. So it's a really important thing to kind of see happening, and it's great to see them doing that.
And obviously in that tournament, Cameron Hildreth made the final five in terms of the standout players. And obviously you mentioned him earlier, and I'd love to get your take on his game. What things really stand out for you, and what do you think his ceiling could be potentially if he has the right people around him? What do you think we can possibly expect from him?
Just the maturity of his game, really. Like I feel like he's got a really nice polished game. For someone his age, he's obviously still quite young. I think he's like 16, 17. I'm not sure how old exactly, but just to see that kind of maturity and that kind of skill over a young age, he's got a swagger about and a confidence that a lot of young players kind of have, but he's also been able to back up and yeah on a big stage as well, something like that, the ANGT, the tournament. So just to kind of have that kind of confidence about him and also be able to back up and have that maturity, like I said, at a young age is important. And yeah, for him, I feel like he's got a very high ceiling. He can go on to do very good things. Obviously, it does depend on kind of the people he's got around him and his work ethic and how much he puts the work in. I don't know him really personally, so I can't really speak for how he works or how he goes about his business. But um, obviously, if he puts the work in, then yeah, definitely he's got all the kind of the attributes to be able to be successful in the future. So wish him all the best, and hopefully he's able to represent the country in the future and do well for us.
And definitely, I say obviously you got you experience playing in Italy, and obviously people around you have had that experience abroad. Broadly speaking, what's the perception of British basketball at the moment from the outside in, from me in Italy, Spain, around Europe? What's the perception of it? Imagine the GB team winning against Germany might or may not have had a big effect in terms of changing that perception. What's your experience on that?
So it's never looking at GB abroad in other countries has always been kind of undervalued, kind of underappreciated. You kind of might not even know that GB kind of has a team. It's really got to a point where we really got to earn our respect, and definitely the win against Germany did help that because I remember going back to my team after that. It was like, wow, you guys beat Germany. I was like, yeah, we're a serious team. We've been working. We're getting better, kind of thing. It's not just we just go and throw a ball around and we put GB on our chest, kind of thing. So it has been good to kind of gain that kind of respect from countries as well because it is a country. GB as a nation for basketball were never really looked on as being able to compete with the top teams and kind of just brushed aside and pushed with the smaller nations. So for us to have a win like we did against Germany and kind of show in more recent games that we're able to compete with these teams is great to kind of say hey with GB is here as well, we deserve some respect. So give us our dues, kind of thing.
For sure. And like I say, obviously, London Lions being in that Champions League might help if they do really well. And obviously, set standard. I just found the teams from Italy. So it is Fortitudo Bologna, Happy Casa Brindisi, and Dynamo Sassari. Sorry. What do people expect from those teams if obviously London Lions get past the qualification?
Yeah, so those are three very good teams. I know Fortitudo is their home crowd is amazing. So that's definitely something, that plays a big part for them as a team. Their crowds really get behind them, and it's really, a really crazy kind of environment when you play there. And it's a really good team. They've changed coaches and they've changed quite a bit their team around. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about it. With Sassari, it's always been a really good team. They've always been at the top of the championship, so they're going to be a very tough outlet. If I'm not mistaken, I think they played Leicester a couple years back when Leicester were in the Champions League. So it'll definitely be a challenge if the Lions come against them, and Brindisi as well. Brindisi is a really aggressive kind of team. They like to get after the defensively, pressure their opponents. So they're three very good teams, and it's definitely teams that will cause problems for a lot of people, and will probably do well in the tournament. So it'll definitely be interesting to see the Lions come up against that kind of competition, and hopefully they can pull out a few W's.
Definitely, I'm glad you mentioned the atmosphere. Like I wanted to ask you earlier, and I forgot to ask you earlier. But I'm always really keen to set players' opinions on atmosphere because I think when you talk about the game day experience, the atmosphere is often the overriding thing or memory from it. And I was wondering, maybe like from your time in Italy or even GB, what are some of the best atmospheres to be involved in terms of fan noise, the experience? What are some of the highlights from your journey so far?
So a couple that stick out to me um, from my rookie season in Italy. So we had a great year. We had a great regular season, and we went undefeated at home. And I can't remember which game of the year it was, but there was at one point we were battling for first place with another team, and it was a home game, and just the noise in that gym was crazy. Like it was literally screaming, from the first buzzer to the last. Like couldn't hear yourself think, you couldn't hear your teammates calling stuff out. There luckily it was the team we played against was a team that was close by, so they brought loads of fans. So there was just that kind of jeering atmosphere, fans going at it, the players going at it. It was a really, intense game. We got the win as well, maintaining our unbeaten record at home. So it was just great experience. And then also game five of the playoffs that same year as well. We actually lost the game, but just being being part of that game, it was an elimination game. We actually got knocked. It was the game we got knocked out. But just being part of that, games. I remember at the first when tip off happened, the fans let streamers down onto the court just to kind of show their like I was like,
Wow.
wow, like we haven't even the game literally just started and they're throwing like we haven't won the game yet, kind of thing. And just the crowd, yeah, it was a bit surreal, kind of have that experience. The gym was packed out, and just having that kind of atmosphere. Every shot you make is kind of it's met by cheers. It's just what the sport's really about. Obviously the fans make sport what it is, kind of thing. So just having that kind of atmosphere, and then also in those years the derby games we had against our local rivals were always something crazy, because they would always bring loads of fans with them and the other team. So whenever we played them, it was always an added bonus to get the win. And then when you could do it at home in front of your fans, it just made it bittersweet. Sometimes we'd go like into the fans and do chants with them. It was a crazy atmosphere to be a part of. So that was definitely some of the best times I've had, in Italy. Definitely enjoying those kind of moments.
Wow. Well, that sounds amazing. And I do follow you close social media. And I saw that your support Always Ball in Brennan. Whenever someone comes on Always Ball, I got to mention that thanks to the guys that Always Ball for my hoodie. And I know they did the NHS Too Busy Staying In. And I saw you were supporting the latest one. And apologies for my ignorance, but I was wondering if you could tell me a bit more about the Amos bursary, because obviously they're a big part of what the latest team at their sort of trying to raise awareness and support. Obviously, this great brand, and obviously you wear the Amos bursary. What's that brand all about? The Amos bursary.
So Amos bursary is something that I've like only recently kind of started looking into. It's only I only like got drawn attention to it seeing their collaboration with Always Ballin. So it was really great to see an organization that is doing that thing for young black men trying to gain them experience and trying to make sure that they're represented in the right way and kind of help push them forward. So I feel like it's really important just in general. I am looking to do kind of more with them as well. I want to kind of involve myself and educate myself a bit more because I don't know too much about it right now, but I'm kind of trying to learn. And I just did my little bit now to support getting a T-shirt and kind of help raise awareness for it, and also really shout out to Always Balling for what they're doing because again, like you said, we're too busy staying in the T-shirt for the NHS, and now with this for the Amos bursary, they've really kind of um, brought themselves forward in this quarantine and and with these current situations to kind of help and do their bit. So definitely what the Amos bursary is doing is important as well, and also it was validation, not validation, but kind of I was verified by the fact that my sister actually she runs a company for African and Caribbean students who are trying to get into medicine, and so it kind of links to similar things to what the Amos bursary is doing. So just being able to kind of support a similar kind of organization and doing these things to kind of help um, young black people kind of build forward and then move on to bigger, better things, and trying to get themselves out there a bit more is always something I'm an advocate for and always something I'm supportive of. So yeah, doing my bit, getting a T-shirt, and then in the future I definitely want to try and be supporting in which ways I can what they're doing. So yeah, it's great.
Definitely, I think that's a great message to echo what you're saying, and I definitely agree. It's a learning time for a lot of people. Maybe a lot of people maybe not affected by racism or maybe not really aware of the struggles a lot of people go through. And I feel like it's a real big learning curve for a lot of people. And I was wanting to know what in this sort of current movement, how do you think it will affect real change society? Because I think we're seeing things directly affected from these protests, social media drive. I'd like to see what your perspective on that is.
Yeah, it's a tough one because obviously racism has been such a big part of human history for so long now that with the changes, it's a thing that's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to take consistent effort and you know consistency from people striving to make changes because again, it's not something that can happen overnight. But I feel like with the the things that have happened recently in the media and just more exposure to it, it's kind of helped open people's eyes to kind of some of the underlying issues. And there's still so much more to go because I actually saw a quote. I think it was Will Smith that said it was like racism isn't new; it's just being filmed now. So it's now people
Yeah,
are kind of seeing more of the struggle that kind of people have been, suffering for a numerous amount of years. I know a lot of people who have experienced, racism throughout their life and throughout their careers as well. So just kind of now it's being brought to light, and it's eye opening because I kind of compare it a little bit to the coronavirus situation because for a lot of people, it's like if it hasn't directly affected you, you kind of brush it to the side and kind of think, oh, it's not really there. It used to be there or it might have affected people in the past, but it's not really around anymore. But it is something that's been consistently present within society for a long time now, and with just underlying issues and underlying things that kind of coming out. And I feel like now is a time more than ever for people to use their platform to speak up on these issues because it's a thing that's going to take time, and you can't eradicate this kind of issue in a day, but through steady kind of learning and people just trying to educate themselves and find out more about these issues and trying to help educate the younger generation so that they grow up knowing the dangers and the issues surrounding racism and surrounding some of the underlying problems in the society. It definitely builds for a kind of a brighter future and one that's kind of more equal to everyone.
but yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, and I really like that thing because I think you made a really good comparison in terms of the COVID. If it doesn't affect you, why should people? But I know this, like you say, it's not a new issue to be reported on. But I think anti-racism, I think that's a really good buzzword at the moment because I think it tackles those people in terms of people. I don't think it's affecting you, but actually, if we're anti-racist, then it's going to real sort of make a big difference. What's your thought on that sort of buzzword anti-racism, and what are the ways you think to it really makes the most change?
Yeah, no, anti-racism is definitely a big thing right now because it's easy to not be racist, but you also kind of have to be against racism because it's easy, and it's easy. So it's easy to be, to not approve of something, but you have to really be against it. So, when someone does something that is racist, do you call them out on it? Or do you just kind of ignore it, kind of thing? It's these kind of things that kind of made a difference because, there's a lot of people that aren't racist, but also aren't necessarily against racism. They kind of go about their business. And that's also kind of not the best way to deal with things because it's not helping people. If you see someone do something racist or act in a way that's demeaning to people of color or people of different ethnicities, if you're not calling them out on it, you're not directly the problem, but you are being part of the problem because you're not trying to help someone better themselves. You're not trying to help someone understand that, equality is a right of all people kind of thing. So anti-racism and being anti-racist is definitely the step forward. Not just being I'm not racist, but to be I'm an anti-racist. So I don't agree with it. I work hard to push against the racism and do what I can to kind of help build and help educate people so that they grow up knowing the cons of racism and also helping to understand when kind of racism is happening and they may not have seen in the past because it's easy for people to kind of turn a blind eye or maybe not notice when you're not really looking for something. It's easy not to see when you're not looking for something. It's like, I don't know, you're looking for a pair of shoes. If you're not really looking for them, you're not really gonna find them. When you start looking, it's a lot easier to see, some of the some of the things that are, really just in your face on a daily basis, and some of the things that you kind of think to yourself, oh, hold on, this has kind of been here for a while, but I never really noticed it before. But now it's being brought to your attention. It's easy to see. So definitely being anti-racist is something that people need to be aware of and people need to push forward because, like I said, it's not just not being racist; it's also, pushing against racism and being anti-racist.
No, I totally agree, and I think you're right as well. It's a really good time to think about it because for me personally, in my journey, like the more you think about how you can be more anti-racist, the more you realise, like you say, with the shoe, there could be a thing like a situation, but maybe if you just see it in passing, you might not think it's racist, or you might not see some maybe the hidden message or the hidden agenda maybe that person might have. But thinking about some of those issues, seeing the stories, reading up on it, it empowers yourself to be a better citizen, and also help in the struggle. Because I think, especially in basketball, it's even more important than maybe general society, because it, is a sport, but it's played by a wide range of diverse individuals, genders, race, and I think it's really important because, I say, we were just talking how we want to see the basketball grow, but if we're not giving everyone the same or equal opportunity, we're actually hindering our game, aren't we? I think that's really important to know. Um, I really appreciate talking about it because I say it's not an easy topic to talk about. I really appreciate coming on. Um, I thought maybe to wrap up this bit, say, because I imagine a lot of people are either struggling with racism currently or with COVID, and I think you're a really good person to speak to because obviously you're doing your shows, you've done your TikTok, you're doing stuff to keep busy. What would your advice to be for people who are struggling in either because of COVID or racism or any issue currently they're faced? Because it can be a really tricky time for people at the moment.
Yeah, no, it is definitely obviously a really trying time with everything that's going on. Like you said, obviously with COVID and the kind of the I don't want to say resurgence, but the racism being more brought to light, in the kind of social eye recently. For me, the biggest thing I've tried to do is just try to find new ways of connecting with people and also new ways of bettering myself. So I feel like through doing my show and interviewing people, I've learned more about kind of people's struggle and I've been able to kind of emphasize more like, this is not easy, trying to become professional athletes and trying to follow, in the footsteps of people before you. It's not a simple process and it's something that everyone experiences differently, and everyone's trying to work towards the same thing. And then really just trying to better myself. So I started learning Spanish. Um, I thought, I already speak Italian. I thought, this is a perfect chance to try and teach myself something new that could be beneficial in the future. So I've started learning Spanish. That's good. That's going pretty good. And then yeah, just trying to find different ways to keep yourself engaged and just keep yourself focused. I've started reading more because I've got so much more spare time that I usually have. Obviously I still try to work out and stay in shape and do what I can at the local basketball course to obviously keep my skills refined, but also with so much more free time, I've been lucky. I've been able to spend a lot of time with my family here during the lockdown. But yeah, just trying to better myself and also trying to connect with people, trying to kind of build yourself because this is the best time for it. There's been so much time where we haven't really been able to live our lives normally. So it's a perfect kind of avenue to maybe get into something new or maybe explore other options where you kind of didn't think was possible, but now you've kind of had more time to think or develop ideas that maybe you were kind of dwelling on in the past. Because combos with Carl is something I had thought of, for a while and kind of something I thought of at the start of quarantine. And then, the more time I was like, I'm just going to do it because, this is the perfect time for it. And people kind of need to, hear about people's stories and hear about these different experiences. So something I did again with the Spanish, I've been saying for years, I want to learn Spanish. And this has kind of been a perfect opportunity for me to be able to sit down every couple of days, do a lesson and try to learn something new. Being able to read more is just being able to, kind of get away from, my usual routine of, I don't know, basketball practice, come home, play video games kind of thing. Like I haven't touched my PlayStation in months kind of thing because even although I've been home a lot, it's like I'm trying to do new things and trying to, create new avenues. TikToks is a way for me to just bring out my creative and kind of fun side and put on a platform for people to, hopefully enjoy. People have told me, TikToks has helped me get through quarantine because it's something to laugh about in a time where, where there's not much positivity going on in the world. So it's just really trying to better myself and taking the opportunity I've been given and the time I've got now, obviously in these months where I've been kind of quarantined and in lockdown to just improve my life in general kind of thing. So yeah, definitely for people watching and people
Definitely,
trying to, find something to do. Yeah,
yeah,
just
definitely hats off. Yeah, you definitely seem to be working hard. How you did was the roots. Obviously, some words are similar. How are you finding it learning Spanish?
the Spanish is not too bad actually. Yeah, it is quite similar to Italian, so there are a lot of similarities with like the rule changes and some of the words are quite similar. So that does help quite a bit. I've been doing it for a couple months now, but I feel like Italian was easier because when I was learning, I was kind of speaking every day. With Spanish, I do know a few people that speak Spanish, but like unless you kind of speak every day, it is harder to kind of retain it and remember it. So yeah, I definitely have to call some of my friends who speak Spanish and kind of get them to check out how my Spanish is doing. But yeah, it's definitely something I've been enjoying.
Learn a language. I find the reading and the writing and maybe the listening the easy. Like you said, the talk is the hardest. Especially about actually because you're fluent in Italian. Maybe it's not so hard in terms of the pronunciation. How do you find?
Yeah, so with learning it, yeah, definitely the speaking with Italian, the speaking was definitely the hardest bit because you're not as confident really kind of doing something you're new to. Um, but now with the Spanish, because I already speak Italian, I kind of know better how to pronounce words and how words kind of should be said and how things kind of flow. So that definitely helps a lot. But yeah, definitely the reading and the writing is definitely the kind of easier bit, and then the kind of speaking comes on afterwards, kind of thing. So yeah, no, it's definitely something that Italian has definitely helped with my Spanish because I feel like it would be a lot harder to learn Spanish if I didn't already know Italian. So yeah.
Just don't do what I do. Mix the languages. I say when I was much younger, I went travelling abroad, and I did the whole interim from Portsmouth to Le Havre, sort of family. Then went to Paris, Strasbourg, Dijon, Marseille, and I was on this train. I got on at Marseille, getting a sleep because it was like the hottest weekend of the year in the past. As you go through Spain, sorry, it's just mixed up now. It's not a good start. Um, I got woken up by a passport control person, and I rather been asleep. It was too hot. I forgot where I was. First thing I said was, I said, hi. He was like, I said, yeah, decide what language you're speaking, mate. Just said passport, please. But I say it's definitely something I wish I've done more lockdown as reading. I think I've done quite a lot of digital content. Maybe I've got a few weeks left. I'll go back to work. I want to try to get some more reading done. I've really enjoyed having you on the show and to see you to the darkness a little bit and around. I thought we'd just finish on what you got planned for next week for your show, if you know. Maybe just plug your channel before we finish for tonight.
So I actually have to speak to some of my guests. I haven't got anyone set for next week's show yet, but I definitely try and get some good guests on. So yeah, for people that want to kind of check out, my Instagram handle is at @Wheatle. So yeah, check that out. My show is on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. So yeah, please tune in and kind of show support for that. So yeah, my Twitter handle is at @CWheatle57. So yeah, I post a lot on there as well. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Definitely, and I watched a bit of your show last Wednesday. It was really good. I caught a bit of Ron Easy, great player for Barking, and another one of those players got a bright future ahead of him. So thank you for coming on, my friend, and I wish you all the best for next season. Take care, stay safe, and hopefully to get back to Italy soon and balling. But in the meantime, please stay safe, everyone. Bye from me and
I
bye
appreciate
from
it.
Carl.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's okay.